Hi, I'm Liv York, and this is just going to be a source of inspiration for your week. Now today I'm feeling inspired by a fairy tale that has been a part of my life for a very long time, and it's called The Princess and the Goblin. And just a little bit of background information, The Princess and the Goblin is not like fairy tales like Snow White or Cinderella, because Snow White and Cinderella would have stemmed from the oral tradition, meaning they were stories that were told over and over and over again, generations before they were actually written down in a book form. Now, Princess and the Goblin was a novel, and I believe it was published. I know the author was George MacDonald. Let me just double check that date that it was published. So it was published in 1872, so a long time ago. So it started as a novel, which is very different from the oral tradition that we know from Grimm's or Perrault or authors like that. Now today's source of inspiration is actually going to come from not the novel version of The Princess and the Goblin, even though I've read it, but today is going to come from the animated film version that was released in 1994, so not that long ago. I'm not going to tell you how old I was when that was released, but it was released in 1994, and that's going to be the inspiration today. So I'm not going to tell the whole story of The Princess and the Goblin if you don't know it, but I am going to talk about the protagonist, which is a young princess named Princess Irene. And there's a point in the story, like many stories, when she's at her lowest, when she's at her darkest, where she's just struggling, trying to find where to go next in life, and she's unsure. So she goes to her great-great-grandmother, who's also named Irene. We'll get back to that in just a couple of seconds. But she goes to her great-great-grandmother, and her grandmother gives her a ring. And this ring has a thread, this invisible thread that only Irene, the princess, can see on her ring. And the grandmother says to her, "You can find your own magic if you just follow the thread." So what I want you to take from this is that I want you to start seeing your own thread, because obviously the thread means, your life's thread, your direction in life. And so Irene had it on her ring. I actually sometimes look down at my ring because I wear this probably 24/7, and I see my thread when I look at it, and I want you to be able to create your own thread. So take a couple of seconds to think about what your thread looks like. Is it coming from a ring? Is it coming from maybe this part of your head? Or is it coming from your heart? Just sort of look down at it. Maybe you see like a gold thread, or you see a sparkling purple thread. It's whatever you want it to be, because it's yours and only you can see it. Then once you see it, I want you to be able to think to yourself, what's going to guide my thread today? Right? Like what's going to guide, what's going to determine whether or not I have a good day or I have a bad day? Because that's essentially what our thread is. We have the choice to guide it to whatever kind of day we want, whatever kind of week we want, whatever kind of month we want, and whatever kind of year we want. So I really want you to just sit down and kind of think about that. Is it going to be you? I mean, that's awesome if it is, but is it going to be, and maybe you have coworkers at work that you just don't get along with, and they're going to dictate how you feel about yourself that day. And maybe you just know that. Maybe you really think that. Maybe you know that. Or is it going to be, oh, everything's just so hectic today, I can already feel it, I'm already gonna just not be able to get through everything? And is that going to dictate how you feel at the end of the day? How you guide? Are you gonna let those external circumstances, you could say, actually guide the way you feel that day? Now so I say that obviously with the hope that when you look down at your thread and when you think, gosh, who's going to be taking that thread and guiding it and making me feel a certain way? And I just want to take a step back and say, making you or forcing you, And then I want to remind you that the thread is invisible to everyone but you. So no one should be able to guide it, because no one knows where it is. It's yours, you know? So I want you to be able to eventually look at your ring, look at that thread coming from your heart, that thread coming from your head, that thread maybe coming from your hair, who knows? And I want you to be able to think, I'm going to be the one guiding it today. And then going back to what Irene's grandmother said to her in the animated film version is, you can find your own magic if you just follow your thread. But what she's really saying is you can find your own power when you trust that voice inside of you. And when you guide your actions from a place of strength within you. Okay? So it's just something to think about. It's not something you have to actively think about every moment of the day, but maybe if you just take a couple of seconds every morning and just sort of think about that thread on your finger or wherever it is, your life's golden thread or whatever color it is, and just think, you know, am I going to be in control of whether or not I have a good day today? Or is something else out there going to be doing that? Is that going to dictate whether or not I feel good about myself today? All right. Well, thank you so much for watching. Now, if this interests you and you're interested in hearing more sort of fairy tale inspired inspirations, you can subscribe to my video blog. I provided a link below that'll give you all the information you need to subscribe. Till next time, bye.